and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about Isaac and the Egg by Bobby Palmer. I literally just filmed this whole video and then it wasn't recording, so I have to do it all again. Hopefully this one will be better. I have a cold, so my voice is a bit tired, but I'm gonna power through. I'm batch filming today, so all of the videos surrounding this one on my channel, I will also have a cold and be like, sorry. This is just the reality of my life. I just always have illness of some kind. But it's okay, don't feel too sorry for me because I've got a lot of great books to read while I'm poorly. Isaac and the Egg was the last book I read in 2024, and it was such a lovely and kind of sad way to end the year. This book is about Isaac, who is having a really tough time. He goes to a bridge to throw himself off, and he screams in anguish, and something in the forest screams back. And the thing that screams is the egg. That's what the back of this book says, and honestly, if you've not read it, just go and read it. This review will contain spoilers. I will be talking about what the egg is, but this book really is so much better if you go into it blind and you don't know anything about the egg. So go read it and come back. Now, for those of you who are sticking around, who have read it, you will know that Isaac goes into the forest, he finds this egg, it's kind of wet and a weird texture, and he takes it home and he puts it in front of the fire. We see when he gets home, there's piles of letters, it's a bit of a mess. He's obviously going through a tough time. He's wearing what seems to be a funeral suit that he has been wearing for a few days, and things are just bad. We quickly learn that his wife has recently passed away, but we don't know how or any of the details surrounding it. Overnight, this egg seems to dry out and become a fluffy little thing. Two very long, kind of weird pipe cleaner type arms unfurl. He's got a yellow face with yellow toes and yellow fingers and big black eyes. He's sort of like a little gibbon creature, a little bit monkey-like, but definitely kind of like an alien type thing. And the story proceeds to turn into like a bit of an E.T. plot. Isaac reflects on his marriage and his grief. He's really struggling with the day-to-day running of the house. He got the phone call that his wife had passed away while he was preparing dinner, and so there's raw, rotting meat in the kitchen. There's loads of cards and condolence cards in the hallway, and the place is just a mess. And the egg kind of goes a little bit mental and starts eating all of the raw meat and eating all of the cards. And this kind of prompts Isaac to start to clean up a little bit. We slowly learn a little bit more about Isaac and about this egg. The egg kind of babbles, kind of talks, but doesn't really speak English. He kind of mimics Isaac's language a little bit, but says it in different kind of ways. And he's always saying wahoo and things like that, which Isaac can't really figure out what he's talking about. They eat a lot of beans on toast together, and they sit on the couch and they watch a lot of films and TV together. And Egg is like his own little person, he's his own little guy. But at this point in the story, I kind of thought that the egg was a personification of Isaac's grief. At one point, Egg starts smashing up plates and things in the kitchen, and it prompts Isaac to kind of lose his temper and do the same. He ends up punching a wall and breaking his hand. And while that's not so great, it's kind of cathartic. It seems to personify his grief and help him work through his anger about what has happened. The neighbours are concerned about this noise and the police end up getting called, which prompts him to get some hospital support and some counselling. But Isaac is very wary. He avoids his sister, he avoids the police, because he's trying to protect the egg and he doesn't want them to take him away and like do experiments on him, E.T. style. We go through a period of the book after he starts therapy where he makes a bit of a list of things he needs to do. He needs to sort out the attic room, which he kind of ignores. He needs to clean the house. He needs to sort out the mail. He needs to do all of these menial tasks. And having this egg here for companionship kind of helps him start to come out of his grief a little and start to work through some of this list. And he reflects on his marriage a lot. We learn a bit more about his wife and what's happened and what kind of life they led. We learn that she wrote children's stories and he illustrated them and they worked together. But we don't learn too much else. There's some close calls with the egg where he's nearly spotted by other people. For example, Isaac is scared to leave him home alone, so he takes him to the therapist's office in a bag and he kind of sneaks out, runs around, and then comes back to the bag at the end. But no one besides Isaac ever interacts with the egg or seems to see the egg. It's not that he's invisible, it's just that the opportunities are always skirted, so we're left wondering, is the egg real or is the egg a hallucination? However, around the midpoint, we actually get some little chunks of the text that are from the egg's point of view. And the egg appears to be quite a highly intelligent alien-like creature. And he's been watching Isaac. He doesn't really love Isaac as much as Isaac loves him. Isaac seems to project quite a lot on the egg, whereas the egg has a more objective view of Isaac. And we learn that Isaac has been dissociating and compartmentalizing certain things. He's been avoiding the attic room, but he's also been disappearing for days at a time, leaving Egg at home even though under normal circumstances he's worried to leave the egg alone, and he often comes back kind of drunk. At this point I kind of thought that he was having an affair, and that maybe this affair was found out and that kind of led to the death of his wife in some way, and so he had a lot of guilt. I was wrong about that, but I was right that, you know, he was compartmentalizing something. The egg ends up sneaking upstairs to this attic room, which prompts Isaac to run up after him and confront what's in the attic. And what we find is a half-decorated nursery. So it turns out his wife had a baby, and at that point we don't know where this baby is or if he's passed away as well. We then get a bit of action and a bit of plot of Isaac trying to help the egg contact home and go home and get picked up. It ends up being quite straightforward. The egg makes him go and buy a lot of weird stuff that he doesn't need, and then the egg just ends up borrowing his phone and phoning home and being like, yep, they're going to pick me up tomorrow, but in his little baba weird egg language. And Isaac's sad to see him go, and as a reader you're like, no, I love the egg, I don't want him to go, he's like the best part of the book. But you know, it really has you guessing, like, well, is he the personification, hallucination of his grief, or is he genuinely a real little alien creature? Not sure. Isaac kind of throws himself into helping the egg get home, and we feel bad for Isaac as he feels bad to lose the egg and he's going to miss him. There's some drama at this point that I'm struggling to remember because it was a few weeks ago that I read this. I think the egg kind of goes missing or tries to make it home on his own, and Isaac kind of loses him for a little bit. That's a stressful moment because you're kind of hoping the egg's okay. And around this time he also finally confronts something else he's been struggling to, and that is reading his wife's yellow notebook in her study, which is the last thing she ever wrote. In it we discover that she's written a story called Isaac and the Egg, and she's drawn this little egg that looks just like our egg, and she's written these parts of the text, which we have in the text as well, that says his fur is white, his face is yellow, his eyes are black, or whatever. And we realise that either by hallucination or by some sort of weird manifestation that this is Mary's story come to life. This makes us further question, is Egg real or not? And if he's not real, how does he have his own little POV parts in these chapters? How does he have an objective perspective of Isaac? And we also see that Isaac recently watched E.T., so that's probably why this E.T. plot of helping this alien creature get home and avoid the police and avoid being seen is something that he's doing. He does something similar to E.T. where he like dresses him up. He kind of holds him in a baby carrier with a hat on and some sunglasses and stuff. People about town think this is really weird, but they kind of don't really see or interact with the egg properly, so we're left wondering, is Isaac just going around with an empty carrier or with something? Very unclear. This creates a lot of tension and drama and intrigue. We finally get answers about what actually happened to Mary, the car accident that happened 5 minutes from home, and we learn that what Isaac's been dissociating and compartmentalizing where he goes when he goes away from home for days at a time is he's been going to the hospital to visit his son, who I think is about 9 months old. He's like a baby. And this day with all the drama of Egg, where he's trying to like get him home but he kind of goes missing, is the day of his child's surgery. Isaac eventually seems to remember this and run to the hospital, and he manages to get there to find out the great news that his son has made it through and that he's going to be okay. And it's at this point the story kind of ends. The egg appears in the hospital and kind of waves goodbye to Isaac and departs. It's like whether Egg was a hallucination or a real alien creature, his part in helping Isaac get through these really tough few weeks, the toughest few weeks of his life, and this horrendous grief, that job of his is over now. Now that Isaac has his son back, something to care for, to be a father to, he no longer needs the egg as part of his healing journey. I thought this was a really beautiful story. It explored grief very truthfully. We saw Isaac, flaws and all. We saw his mental health struggles. We saw him struggle to care for himself. We saw him dissociate and seem to skirt some responsibility. This is true to his character because it's something that his wife had issue with, that he recalls them having a conversation about shortly before she died. But we see him work through his grief, work through this dark time, and we get a lot of humour and drama and intrigue with this egg story as he does so. If it wasn't for the egg, this would be a really sad and depressing story, but the egg brings so much comic relief and curiosity to the story that really drives the plot forward, really drives the intrigue, and really makes this story charming and beautiful and tragic. I've seen people being quite harsh about Isaac as a character and his skirting of responsibility and his struggle in some reviews online. I really kind of disagree with that discourse. I see where they're coming from, but I personally didn't find him that frustrating. I actually just empathised with him and what he was going through. I think being around 30 and losing your life partner while you have a young child who's also potentially going to die, is so seriously injured, I think that's a really horrendous thing to deal with. I think most people would fall apart at least for a few weeks and really struggle with that. I think Isaac is a well-rounded character and he has flaws. He had flaws before this tragedy happened, and this tragedy draws out those flaws and really puts them at the forefront of his character for a little while. But he is a very mentally ill person. It's very clear he's dissociating and he's struggling to just do basic care for himself. And he's potentially hallucinating an egg alien thing. I know in some of my other reviews, like Rewitched and Really Good Actually, I had a little bit more of a pull yourself up by the bootstraps, kind of come on kind of attitude towards the protagonists, but I don't have that attitude here. I am a nice person, I swear. Grief is horrendous and mental health struggles are real. And in this case, I really don't think he could have pulled himself up by the bootstraps. I think he really did need a lot of support. And like, for better or worse, for real or not real, the egg helped him do that. The egg kind of prompted him to start to clean the house and get his life in order a little bit. I also think the egg was a very good distraction for him. Instead of focusing on his son's health and like whether he was going to pull through or not, we see that once Isaac has his answers, once his son comes out of surgery and has a good prognosis, that the egg can depart because he no longer needs the egg to survive this horrendous anxiety and grief. And I do believe that Isaac will rise up and be a good father and be responsible once he works through this really horrendous point in his life. Grief feels destroying and terrifying, feels like you're never going to get through it, but eventually you do get through it and you are able to move forwards like Isaac is doing. I think the use of this egg character making the story really bizarre, it kind of perfectly captures that experience of grief, because grief can feel really bizarre in that your life just feels like it's ended, like your world's been turned upside down, and yet everyone in the world around you is just like getting on with their lives, going to school, going to work, getting groceries, doing all of these normal things. And for you, who's experiencing it, this catastrophic event has happened and it's like your world has ended. It's like the aliens have landed and you've got this alien to take care of. And this alien is kind of you, this new version of you that didn't exist prior to the bereavement. I think this is kind of what losing those closest to you is like. And I think this story captures that in a really charming and interesting and beautiful, touching way. Let me know what you think about the book in the comments. What do you think about Egg? Is he real? Is he a little alien? Or is he just a hallucination? I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you want to see more of my book reviews. I do have other kind of bookish videos coming as well. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!